Got something on the lighter side and then on the heavier side today. We are going to look at what the Republicans have been calling for, the complete and unabridged case against Donald Trump in Latin. A case of criminal stupidity. What the impeachment will prove is that just because you don't think it's treason does not mean it is not treason or that you are innocent. We will present it in 6 arguments of culpable ignorance. And we have on display here the 6 arguments A through F in Latin. And since I don't pronounce it very well, I'll mention them as I go through each one separately rather than list them all here. You can see it in the graphic here. The final defense or reply to the defense from the defense is being made by the Republicans. All right. And the final reply to the defense made by the Republicans, in anything they say, you can use this simple phrase, ignoratio elenchi. The defense ignores the questions of guilt and instead addresses arguments to matters beside the point and irrelevant, in which is exhibited, in fact, further culpability. That's what the 2 words ignoratio elenchi mean. And we will conclude with the case of criminal stupidity. Introduction, as all good cases should have. Without facts, how do we know he's guilty? Now, this is the purely procedural case against Donald Trump as demanded by his defenders. Their concern was procedure. And we're going to give you a procedural argument. We don't need the facts since no one really disputes the facts and he admits to them. So any defense of that ultimately results in ignoratio elenchi. You have to talk about things other than the facts. So let's do that. Let's deal with the procedures they claim need to be dealt with. The fact base is simple enough in this case. The release transcript is the smoking gun with the smoke. Right? The admission by Donald Trump, yeah, I'm holding this smoking gun and yeah, I shot it. Okay? The repeated admission of his failed attempt means he attempted. No quid pro quo. If you didn't do anything, why are you saying it didn't happen? The proof of it's happening is someone else's problem. The narrative proof of a standing quid pro quo is one of the facts. The law being dealt with is the solicitation of a favor is a crime prima facie. You don't have to be successful in your crime for the crime to be committed. Now, the proof of the case, here's the important thing. The proof of the case in a formal procedural argument is the demonstration that Trump is an ignoramus. that he is an ignorant businessman is his only exculpatory defense. But for that defense to be valid, Trump must admit he is unfit for office by virtue of his ignorance of how to do his office. Hence, he is either a criminal for having committed crimes, or criminally stupid, and hence unfit to stand as president. That's how you make the procedural argument, the procedural case. No one has thrown that out against the Republicans at this point. Now, to show criminal stupidity, let's see how you do that. The first of our arguments is, and excuse my pronunciation, ignorantia eorum que quis scira tenetur non excusat. In English, more or less, ignorance of those things which one is bound to know excuses not. As president, he was sworn to uphold the Constitution under penalty of law. He has been informed of and repeatedly advised regarding emoluments. Ignorance of the prohibition is no excuse. That's a purely procedural argument. Argument 2. Ignoratio legis neminem excusat. Ignorance of law excuses no one. No man is above the law, especially not the president. We need to look into this form a little deeper. The president's behavioral options are not as wide as the non-elected citizen. A mistake is being made here by him and everyone else that he has more power than you or I, when in fact he has less. But he is, instead of having more power, he is restricted by law by virtue of the title he holds. Trump is not only ignorant of the law, but is affirmatively contemptuous of all three branches of government, including his own, the executive, as well as the judiciary and the legislative. He has shown affirmative contempt by issuing edicts in violation of his authority and in contempt of all three branches. Now, that is his purpose. He has been very, very successful, and that is all he or fascists really need to do, is violate the law and get away with it. That's all they're concerned about. The first thing he did is this edict against Muslims. It doesn't matter or not whether that was overturned. He succeeded in redirecting resources and expending energy on dealing with it. He tested the resilience of the system. That's all they need to do, is create chaos. That's their purpose. So he delegitimized the legislature by not being carted off out of the Oval Office once the edict was made, as any responsible Praetorian Guard would have done. He got away with delegitimizing the legislature, and for the last 10 years, 20 years, Mitch McConnell has been subverting the judiciary of America for 10, 15 years now. They're appointing people who have absolutely no acquaintance with law as judges. So he just came in and did the rest. Now, just about virtually every day that he's in office, he's delegitimizing the Congress. The Congress, there are not three equal parts of government. That's nonsense. The highest segment of the government, the highest part of the government is the Congress, is the people's representatives. And so long as they allow him to sit in that office, he's delegitimized them. They're unable to stop what he's doing. He's murdering children on the border. And they're letting him get away with it. Third argument. Ignorare leges est lata culpa. To be ignorant of the law is gross neglect. Now, everyone admits he's neglecting his duties, but nobody's doing anything about it. That he doesn't do anything and sits around and watches TV all day and Twitters is a neglect of his office. His job is to learn and know the law and to act accordingly. To show affirmative contempt for the government, the Constitution and the law as written shows a malicious ignorance, an affirmative neglect of his duty to the law. And that is, in fact, how you subvert the law, by ignoring it. This is exhibited in his policy of and repeated dictates resulting in crimes against humanity. Were he not in office, he would be tried in the world court. Argument 4. Ignorante facti excusat, ignorantia juris non excusat. An ignorance of the facts is excusable. That's why you have advisors and informed, neutral civil servants to educate you as to circumstance. Ignorance of the law is not excusable because it's knowable. He is fully cognizant of what he is doing, its effect, and its evil intent, and he marks his success in office by the degree of corruption and displacement of public service he has created unto the shutting down of the government and aiding and abetting foreign powers hostile to our country. He knows full well what he's doing. He's not so mentally incompetent that he doesn't even know what he's doing, which makes what he's doing that much worse. Ergo, thus, therefore, argument 5. Ignorantia juris quod quisque tenetur scire nominam excusat. Therefore, ignorance of law, which everyone is bound to know, excuses no man. It may serve, however, to make the defense of incompetence to plead for mitigation of punishment. You can't deny you did something wrong, and you can't escape the consequences of a crime. You can plead for mercy out of your ignorance. That is the course of the Democrats' prosecution of this matter and the manner of escape for both Trump and the Democrats in order to be both rid of Trump and be the means for Democrats to retain power and derail a popular movement against a criminally immoral political bureaucracy. They're all guilty. It is also why Democrats are taking such convoluted and excruciating tactics when they could simply cart him off in chains. Once a case is made against the president, which we just did, they have a right to defend him or reply. In turn, we have a right to reply to the defense. And the reply to the whole of the defense is reduced to two words in Latin: ignoratio elenchi. And those two terms mean the following: The defense fails to answer the question of guilt for high crimes and misdemeanors. The defense must answer to the emoluments violation as well as conspiracy and acts of treason and complicity to murder. They do not. Instead, the defense addresses arguments to matters besides the point and irrelevant. In defense of these irrelevant issues, the motivation for their pursuit betrays a conspiratorial and traitorous purpose, which only exhibited further culpability. The defense can only survive with a corrupt court as existed in the Dred Scott case, which contributed to civil war, which has already been the declared intent of Donald Trump should he be removed from office. He's already said he'll start a civil war. Trump's blatant contempt for union of the United States far exceeds even what Jefferson Davis was willing to say before he renounced his citizenship through sedition and treason. Conclusion. Donald J. Trump engages in criminal stupidity in violation of his oath of office and in contempt for the Constitution and the citizens of the United States of America, and thus rests the purely procedural case against him. You see, in 9 pages, we have the case against Donald Trump. We can use all the testimony, but you already got the case as requested by the Republicans. Let's go on to dealing with, in fact, some of the content of the case, and we'll break that into a second part.